A small, metal, spherical object emitted these few, brief blips you are now hearing. But as harmless as they seem to us, these bleeps from this tiny, diminutive object terrified an entire nation. This small metal object was called Sputnik, the world's first man-made satellite to orbit the Earth. Since the end of World War II, the United States considered itself to be in the forefront of science and technology among the nations of the world. American ingenuity had split the atom, developed a vaccine against polio, and perfected mass production. But now another nation had taken the lead in the newest and most prestigious field of science, space exploration. To add insult to injury, the nation that launched this satellite was the Soviet Union, America's chief ideological and political rival on the world stage. Ever since the Enlightenment, science and math had been regarded as objective, ideologically neutral fields of pure knowledge. But from the moment Sputnik launched, they took on the ideological overtones of Cold War rivalry. After Sputnik, every milestone, every achievement in the human conquest of outer space would not be looked on primarily as a triumph of pure science or math, but as proof of the superiority of either democracy or communism. Of course, given these concerns, the United States did not delay in quickly moving forward with its own satellite program, codenamed Vanguard. Just barely 2 months after Sputnik, the launch was attempted. The result? Utter disaster. The rocket, dubbed Flopnik by detractors, was as much a failure for the US as Sputnik was a triumph for the Soviet Union. A few days after the failure, a Soviet delegate to the United Nations sarcastically asked if America would like to receive some of the technological assistance the Soviet Union earmarked for backward nations. Many in America blamed the nation's educational system for the failure. They claimed the whole system needed thorough reform from top to bottom. A picture was painted in the popular imagination of studious Soviet teenagers studying trigonometry and rocket science, while American students loafed and slacked off in the softer subjects, or, even worse, wasted their time playing football. Ed Bushong, who was in the 8th grade at the St. James School for Boys in rural Maryland, recalls an immediate hardening of tone from his school administration the morning after Sputnik.
I can remember in 1957 when Sputnik was beeping in space. Mrs. Nelson, who was one of our major teachers at St. James School for Boys, came into the classroom and said, "Boys, you all work very hard, and your parents sacrifice a lot for you. But now you're going to even have to work harder because the Soviets have beaten us to space." And we called them the Russians then. And that's what she said. And she said also, this means that you're really going to have to produce now.
It was, indeed, all about production, and the production was about to come. It may seem hard to believe that the United States, starting so far behind its rival, would not only catch the Soviets in the field of space exploration, but far surpass them by putting a man on the moon in just under a dozen years' time. Over the next week, we will explore just how and why this happened. Though it may seem inevitable in retrospect that America would triumph in space, it most certainly was not. This is a story of Cold War competition and intrigue. This is a story of how a nation overcame the odds through a massive national effort. It is a story which has lessons to teach us today, an age in which we are once again falling behind the rest of the world in math and science. This is the story of the space race.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.